I was engrossed with wondering how he was going to pull this off.
Country music's golden age wasn't all rhinestones and sweet melodies. It had a darker, wilder side. The legends of that era didn't just sing about heartbreak, rebellion, and trouble, they lived it. From jaw-dropping arrests and chaotic bar brawls to hidden affairs and even tragic deaths. These 17 classic country stars ended up tangled in serious legal trouble. Some faced real consequences, while others slipped away unscathed. Come along as we count down the most shocking and unbelievable crimes these old-school country icons were accused of. 1. Jerry Lee Lewis marries his underage cousin.
When I became 8 years old, my parents mortgaged the house.
Jerry Lee Lewis was one of the wildest and most talented performers in early rock and roll. With hits like Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shaking Going On, he became a star in the 1950s. But just as fast as he rose to fame, his career almost fell apart overnight because of a shocking marriage scandal. In 1957, Lewis married his third wife, a girl named Myra Gale Brown. The problem? Myra was not just 13 years old. She was also his first cousin once removed. At the time, Jerry Lee was 22. To make matters worse, he was still legally married to his previous wife when he wed Myra. When news of the marriage broke, especially the fact that Myra was only 13, it caused public outrage. Lewis tried to fix things by claiming she was 15, not 13, but the truth was already out. Lewis had just arrived in Britain for a major tour when the press uncovered the story. The reaction was immediate and fierce. After only 3 shows, the entire British tour was canceled. Reporters hounded him, and fans turned their backs. When Lewis returned to the United States, things didn't get any better. Radio stations stopped playing his music, and venues refused to book his shows. He was blacklisted across the country, and his career, which had been burning bright, seemed to crash overnight. Though he continued to make music, the scandal followed him for years. Later in life, his marriages stayed in the headlines for dark reasons. 2 of his wives died under suspicious circumstances, though he was never charged with a crime. Despite the controversy, Jerry Lee Lewis remained a legendary figure in music, but his marriage to young Myra is still remembered as one of the most scandalous moments in rock and roll history. 2. Randy Travis discovered bare and disoriented.
3 times. I rolled it 3.
Randy Travis was a country music hero, a deep voice, heartfelt songs, and a golden career. But in 2012, his name was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. And at the center of it all were 2 things Randy couldn't seem to leave behind: alcohol and his car. It started quietly. One evening, police in Denton County, Texas found Randy sitting in his car in a church parking lot. He wasn't just resting, he was sipping wine behind the wheel. Though it didn't lead to anything serious, he was charged with a Class C misdemeanor and spent a few hours in jail. Embarrassing, yes, but it was only the beginning. 6 months later, things got much worse. One night, Randy had too much to drink and crashed his car into a construction zone. But instead of staying at the scene or calling for help, he did something no one expected. He took off all his clothes, left the wrecked car behind, and wandered off naked. In a daze, Randy stumbled down the road to a convenience store and tried to buy cigarettes, completely nude. The store turned him away, and soon after, a concerned caller reported seeing a naked man lying in the middle of the road. That man was Randy Travis. When police arrived, they found him confused, combative, and clearly drunk. He was arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated. He also faced a felony charge for retaliation or obstruction after reportedly threatening officers. The shocking details made national news. Later, Randy pleaded guilty to the DWI. The felony charge was dropped, and he was given probation, a suspended sentence, and something far worse than jail time, a permanent place in a celebrity scandal. 3. Waylon Jennings' substance possession.
It could have been because there was electric lights in there. It could have been a refrigerator, but I don't.
Waylon Jennings was one of the biggest names in outlaw country music. Known for doing things his own way, he lived a wild life both on and off the stage. But in 1977, his outlaw image got him into real trouble with the law. It started when a package of a preferred substance was sent to Waylon's recording studio. The package came from someone he worked with, and the Drug Enforcement Administration was already watching it. As soon as it arrived, agents rushed to Jennings' studio with a search warrant, but it took them some time to get inside. While they waited, Waylon somehow found a way to get rid of the substance. So when they finally searched the place, they didn't find anything. They did, however, arrest him for possession of a substance and conspiracy to distribute it. The situation was serious, and Waylon could have faced major jail time. Things got even more complicated when the police later searched his home and found several guns, including rifles and handguns. At the time, Waylon was a convicted felon from a past substance offense, which meant he wasn't legally allowed to have any firearms. Even though the charges sounded bad, Jennings kept calm. He later joked about the whole thing in his song, "Don't You Think This Outlaw Bit's Done Got Out of Hand," which was based on the arrest. Waylon never tried to hide his problems with substances which he battled for years, but this arrest in 1977 was a wake-up call. It reminded him and his fans that the outlaw life came with real risks. Despite the close call with prison, Waylon Jennings kept making music and remained a symbol of rebellious country spirit. 4. Billy Currington's "People Are Crazy" became too real.
You just didn't get picked. And it's never...
Country singer Billy Currington had just found success with his hit song, "People Are Crazy." But soon after, he showed the world a little of his own wild side. Not on stage, but on the water. In April 2013, Currington was living in a beautiful waterfront home in Chatham County, Georgia. His view came with peace and privacy until guided tour boats started passing a little too close to his property. Over time, it got on his nerves. But one day, something inside him snapped. According to reports, on April 15th, a 70-year-old boat captain, Charles Harvey Farrell, was doing his usual tour with 2 passengers on board. He passed by Currington's home like he always did, but this time, Billy Currington had had enough. Currington jumped into his own boat, grabbed a camera, and chased the tour boat down. He got close and began screaming curses and threats at the older man. The captain later told police that if hadn't gotten into his slip fast enough, Currington would have run him over. The very next day, the captain reported the incident, saying he now feared for his life and didn't feel safe running his boat tour. He had no idea what set Currington off, but it left him shaken. On April 24th, a grand jury indicted Billy Currington on 2 felony charges, making terroristic threats and abusing an elderly person by causing mental anguish. Currington was arrested but quickly released on $27,000 bond. He was later sentenced to 5 years probation and was forbidden from contacting the captain ever again. 5. Willie Nelson's tax evasion.
I just felt it, and that it was...
Willie Nelson is more than a country icon. He's a rebel spirit wrapped in soulful lyrics and endless resilience. Behind the calm smile and legendary guitar, Trigger, lies a life marked by brushes with the law, personal trials, and unwavering honesty. In 2006, police found marijuana and mushrooms on his tour bus. But Willie didn't deny a thing. It wasn't his first offense. He'd faced similar trouble in the 90s and again in 2010, always standing tall and taking responsibility. But his greatest battle came in 1990 when the IRS claimed he owed nearly $17 million. It wasn't his doing. He'd trusted the wrong people, but he still lost nearly everything. Refusing defeat, Willie released the IRS tapes to pay off the debt, 1 song at a time. Through it all, he stayed true to himself. Willie faced the storm and kept singing. 6. Glen Campbell's mistreatment. Glen Campbell was a country music icon, known for classics like Rhinestone Cowboy and Wichita Lineman. But in 2003, his career took a sharp detour when a shocking driving under influence incident put him in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Near his home in Phoenix, Arizona, Campbell, then 67, crashed his BMW while heavily intoxicated. His blood alcohol level was 0.20, more than double the legal limit, and he'd also been mixing alcohol with prescription meds. Instead of stopping, he drove home. Police soon arrived, and when they tried to arrest him, Campbell lashed out, even kneeing an officer, an act that brought a felony assault charge on top of driving under influence and hit-and-run counts. He later downplayed the event, saying he wasn't really that drunk. Still, he pled guilty and served 10 days in jail. Mugshots of a confused, disheveled Campbell stunned fans used to his clean-cut image. Afterward, he admitted he had fallen off the wagon and vowed to stay sober. Though the scandal scarred his public image, his musical legacy endured. 7. Uncle Kracker's inappropriate act.
Here and say, oh, yeah, you know, it's great.
In the early 2000s, Uncle Kracker, whose real name is Matthew Schaffer, was a rising star. With hits like Follow Me and Smile and his early collaborations with Kid Rock, he built a reputation as a carefree, feel-good artist. But in August 2007, that image was shattered. After a performance at the S Lounge in Raleigh, North Carolina, a 26-year-old woman accused Kracker of inappropriately touching her. Police arrested him hours later at a nearby hotel and charged him with a second-degree inappropriate act offense, a serious felony that shocked fans and made national headlines. Kracker firmly denied the accusation, calling the situation regrettable and insisting it was completely out of character for him. As a father of 2 daughters, he said it was the kind of behavior he would never tolerate. Despite his denial, he later agreed to plead guilty to a reduced charge of misdemeanor assault and was sentenced to 1 year of probation. Though he avoided jail, the damage to his reputation was lasting. The fun-loving image gave way to public scrutiny, and the incident became a shadow over his career, a harsh reminder that one night can change everything. 8. Spade Cooley caused the death of Killer. In the 40s and 50s, Spade Cooley was a huge star in Western swing music. He led a popular band, played fun, upbeat songs, and had a big following. But instead of being remembered for his music, Cooley is remembered for a shocking and tragic crime. In 1945, Cooley married Ella May, a singer in his band. While they looked like a star couple, their marriage was full of arguments, jealousy, and abuse. Both accused each other of cheating, and Spade had a violent temper. He once said he'd kill Ella if she ever tried to leave. By 1960, Cooley had retired, and his life was falling apart. He drank heavily, lost money, and became more unstable. In 1961, Ella May asked for a divorce and wanted custody of their 3 children. She also told a friend she'd had an affair with cowboy star Roy Rogers. A few days later, Cooley beat Ella May to death in their home. Their 14-year-old daughter, Melody, witnessed it and later testified against him in court. Trying to cover it up, Cooley called an ambulance and acted like nothing happened, but Ella May had already died from her injuries. His trial shocked the public. Cooley was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Melody's brave testimony helped convict him. In prison, Cooley became a model inmate. In 1969, he was about to be released on parole for health reasons. He was even given a short break from prison to perform at a charity show, but right after his performance, he had a heart attack and died. 9. Johnny Cash's outlaw acts.
And after going back 2 or 3, 4,
Johnny Cash was one of country music's biggest stars, a rebel with a deep voice and songs filled with pain and honesty. But his real life was just as wild as the ones he sang about. In the 60s, Cash's behavior spun out of control. He drank heavily, took pills, and lived recklessly. One major incident happened when his truck caught fire in California and burned hundreds of acres of forest. He brushed it off, calling it his dead truck, and shockingly faced no jail time or fine. His most serious arrest came in 1965. After a trip to Mexico, Cash was caught in El Paso, Texas, with a guitar case full of pills, hundreds of prescription pills. Though he was charged, he again avoided prison. Later, in a bizarre moment, Cash was arrested in Starkville, Mississippi for picking flowers from someone's yard while drunk at 2 a.m. That strange night led him to write the song Starkville City Jail. Over the years, he faced multiple arrests for drunkenness, reckless driving, and substance possession. Still, he only served short jail stints and paid fines. He truly walked the line, both in his music and his troubled life. 10. Billy Joe Shaver's self-defense.
Take this and leave. And I said, well,
Billy Joe Shaver wasn't just a country songwriter, he was a living legend. Known for writing nearly every song on Waylon Jennings' Honky Tonk Heroes, his lyrics told gritty stories of pain, heartache, and rebellion. But in 2007, Shaver's own life became a tale wilder than any of his songs. On March 31st, 2007, outside Papa Joe's Texas Saloon in Lorena, Texas, a fight broke out. Shaver, in his late 60s, pulled a gun during the argument and asked the now famous question, "Where do you want it?" then shot a man in the face. The victim, Billy Bryant Coker, survived. Shaver claimed he acted in self-defense, saying Coker had a knife and had threatened him. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault and unlawful gun possession. The case made national news, not just because of the shooting, but because Billy Joe was a country music icon. Stars like Willie Nelson and Robert Duvall supported him in court. In 2010, a jury believed his story and found him not guilty of assault. He still faced a charge for carrying the gun illegally. Never one to shy away from drama, Shaver turned the incident into a song called Wacko from Waco. Another artist, Dale Watson, even wrote Where Do You Want It, based on Shaver's bold words. 11. Rodney Atkins' inappropriate act. On the morning of November 21, 2011, country singer Rodney Atkins faced serious accusations. His wife, Tammy Jo, called 911, claiming he had tried to smother her with a pillow, grabbed her face, and threw her down a hallway. She said their 10-year-old son, Elijah, witnessed the entire fight, which had gone on all night. Tammy also claimed Rodney had been out drinking. Known for hits like Take a Back Road, Atkins was arrested that same day and briefly jailed before being released on bail. At first, the public didn't know the details. The truth came out later through divorce filings. Rodney denied the physical mistreatment, saying it was only a verbal argument and that he left the room to avoid upsetting their son. He also filed for divorce, stating he had no other option. Rodney later thanked fans for their support and said he trusted the truth would come out. The case went to court, and in February 2012, the judge retired the charges. This meant the case would be dismissed if Rodney met certain conditions, including community service and evaluations for anger, alcohol, and substance, all of which he completed. He was never found guilty, and no admission of guilt was made. But the incident left a lasting impact, raising questions and changing his family forever. 12. Johnny Paycheck's dangerous argument.
Stupidest thing I've ever done. Pulled a gun to scare him off. And the gun,
Johnny Paycheck was born Donald Lytle, but in the late 60s, he changed his name to stand out, borrowing it from a real boxer. The new name gave him a tough edge, and soon after, his music career took off. He scored hits like She's All I Got and Take This Job and Shove It, earning fans with his raw, working-class songs and rebellious style. But Paycheck didn't just sing about wild living, he lived it. In December 1985, at a bar in Hillsboro, Ohio, he got into an argument that turned dangerous. He pulled a .22 caliber pistol and fired at a man, the bullet grazing the victim's head. Paycheck was arrested, found guilty, and sentenced to 7 years in prison. But he didn't begin serving time until 1989, and even then, he didn't serve the full term. Ohio Governor Richard Celeste pardoned him, and Paycheck spent only 22 months behind bars. Despite the legal trouble, Johnny kept making music. His outlaw reputation only grew, making him a legend to fans who saw him as someone who lived the hard truths he sang about. Johnny Paycheck's life was a mix of grit, mistakes, and unforgettable music. He didn't just create a name, he built a legacy. 13. Merle Haggard's theft.
I was engrossed with wondering how he was going to pull.
Before Merle Haggard became a country music star, he lived a rough and troubled life. As a teenager, he skipped school, hopped freight trains, and got into trouble for stealing. He was sent to juvenile centers and reform schools many times, but kept running away. His crimes started small, shoplifting and skipping school, but got worse over time. He tried robbing gas stations and restaurants, and even escaped from a jail camp. After trying to rob a roadhouse, he was finally caught and couldn't escape the law. In 1958, at just 20 years old, Merle was sent to San Quentin State Prison. While there, a performance by Johnny Cash made a deep impact on him. It inspired Merle to turn his life around. He earned his GED, stayed out of trouble, and began writing songs. After his release in 1960, Merle focused on music. With help from country singer Lefty Frizzell, he started recording. His songs about hard times and redemption spoke to many. He soon became one of the biggest names in country music. In 1972, Governor Ronald Reagan gave him a full pardon, clearing his record. 14. Mindy McCready's Battery. Mindy McCready was a rising star in country music during the late 90s. With a powerful voice and hit songs like Guys Do It All the Time, she looked like she had it all. But behind the scenes, her life was filled with pain, mistakes, and run-ins with the law. Her first major legal problem came in 2004, when she was arrested for using a fake prescription to get the painkiller OxyContin. At first, she denied it, but later pleaded guilty. The judge gave her probation, a fine and community service, but this was only the beginning of her legal troubles. Mindy later broke her probation several times. She was caught leaving the state without permission, failing to report to her probation officer, and driving under the influence. On top of that, she was also charged with driving with a suspended license, and later faced accusations involving identity theft and even unlawful imprisonment. One of her most talked about arrests happened in 2007. Mindy got into a physical fight with her mother. Both women accused each other of battery. When police arrived, Mindy resisted arrest, and the officer had to tackle her to the ground to get her under control. She ended up with a cut on her nose. At the police station, things got worse. She became loud and aggressive, and officers had to pepper spray her. Through it all, Mindy struggled with addiction and emotional pain. She often said that fame had come too fast and that she didn't know how to handle it. Her run-ins with the law became more frequent, and her once bright career faded into tabloid headlines. 15. Hank Williams Jr.'s mistreatment.
My thing and make my music, because I'm not going to run around.
In 2006, country music star Hank Williams Jr. found himself in serious trouble while visiting Memphis, Tennessee. A 19-year-old waitress accused him of putting her in a chokehold after she refused to kiss him. The young woman went to the police and filed charges against the famous singer. At the time the charges were made, Hank Jr. wasn't even in town. He was away on a fishing trip. When he heard about the accusation, he had to cut his trip short and return to turn himself into the police. The story made headlines fast. Fans were shocked, and the news spread quickly. But Hank Williams Jr. strongly denied all of the woman's claims. He said the accusation was completely false. According to him, the woman came forward only after he refused to give her money. In a public statement, Hank Jr. said she had demanded an outlandish amount of money and made up the story when he didn't pay her. After an investigation, the case didn't move forward. There wasn't enough evidence to prove that the assault had actually happened. So the court dismissed the case, and no charges were filed against Hank Williams Jr. Even though he was cleared, the incident still drew a lot of attention. For someone with such a long and successful music career, it was a moment he likely wished had never happened. Hank Jr., known for his rowdy image and strong opinions, didn't let the event stop his career, but it did add a rough chapter to his story. While some believed he actually did it, others thought otherwise. 16. David Allan Coe's rough teenager years.
Guys like me, poor guys, and but over the...
David Allan Coe didn't just adopt the outlaw image, he was the outlaw long before it became a country music trend. When he swaggered into Nashville, the prison ink on his arms was still fresh, a reminder of nearly 2 decades spent drifting between solitary confinement and the prison yard. As a teenager, Coe pulled armed robberies and even stabbed another inmate over a cigarette debt. Most parole officers expected him to vanish back into crime. Instead, he reappeared on stage, wearing a rattlesnake hat, belting out songs he claimed to have written during Lights Out behind bars. Coe said he'd penned over 300 songs while incarcerated, and the music started to sell. But controversy sold faster. While albums like Penitentiary Blues turned heads, it was his bootleg tapes, laced with racist language and violent fantasy, that turned stomachs. Promoters backed away. Radio stations refused to play his songs. Still, fans kept showing up, drawn to the raw energy of his voice, the gun oil grit in his lyrics, and the danger that seemed to follow him like smoke. His legal troubles extended beyond his past crimes. In later years, Coe pleaded guilty to obstructing the administration of tax laws, failing to file returns and pay what he owed. The outlaw who once bragged about surviving the system was now caught dodging it in a different way. And though he once claimed to have killed a man on death row, that too turned out to be false. Official records show he was locked up for possessing burglary tools and indecent materials. Even now, David Allan Coe remains a mystery. Was he a gritty storyteller spinning dark tales for shock value? Or was he a lifelong felon who never truly walked away from life? Maybe he was both, a man who blurred the line between fact and fiction, pain and performance. One thing's certain, Coe didn't just sing about the outlaw life, he wore it, lived it, and never apologized for it. 17. Faron Young's unaliveness. Faron Young, a name synonymous with country music charm and talent, concealed a tumultuous inner life beneath his public persona. His career, marked by quick wit and a distinctive yodel, was unfortunately shadowed by a series of incidents that revealed a darker side. The most publicly known of these was a 1972 arrest for assault in West Virginia. During a concert, he spanked a young girl in the audience, claiming she had spat on him. This incident led to a fine, but it also highlighted a growing pattern of erratic behavior. Beyond this, Young's struggles with alcohol abuse and depression were well documented. Stories circulated about him threatening his wife with a gun, and he was known to have fired a pistol into his ceiling, a stark illustration of his inner turmoil. His interactions with law enforcement often ended with a handshake and an autograph, suggesting a degree of privilege, yet these instances accumulated, adding to the weight of his struggles. The relentless demands of a touring career and the pain of personal demons took their toll. Late-night regrets and the gnawing ache of depression became constant companions. The facade of a cheerful performer began to crack, revealing a man wrestling with internal conflicts. The pressures of the music industry, coupled with his personal battles, created a dangerous environment. In a tragic culmination of these struggles, Young took his own life with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.